mainly because they need to sell more licensed and paid technology. That's a yellow. So the market is a definite green, but the ability to monetize it is yellow, hopefully going to green. And what we've done there is, just to give you, I'm not going to go through the whole slide because you don't have the time, but what's the maturity levels happening over the 5-year period? How many of these have established international players that can set benchmarks? How many of these have established local players that can set benchmarks? Is there adequate skill and talent available? Is there funding available? Are we as India in the top 3 in Asia? Yes or no? Are we in the top 10 in the world? Yes or no? And these are kind of the very general barometers by which I think, hopefully when we look at next year's report or the next report coming out, we will engage with the community to figure out, can we give a sense of the direction and momentum in these various areas. So coming to the last few comments here, I just wanted to share some thoughts and ideas on what I think the engagement challenge is going to be. The engagement challenge of the past was someone gave you some work, someone gave us some work, and we delivered it. And we've known that, okay, the customer satisfaction was a very steep climb. My sense is that on the services side, the country has done extremely well in being able to rise to the challenge of giving clients what they want as far as satisfying them is concerned. On the original content side, we definitely are on that journey, and I think the next 1 or 2 or 3 years will see that we will be able to crack the code in making sure that a lot more people engage with our comics, our television episodes, our movies, and so forth. I cannot tell you how excited I am just in the next 2 or 3 months with large, big budget animated features which are locally grown for the local market and that are coming out. And you know, I had the pleasure of working closely, for example, with Toonpur Ka Superhero, which is a live action animation mix, which as you know releases shortly. And those are the kind of dipsticks that will actually tell us that the market for that kind of content is going to grow significantly. I just wanted to share with you the good news on why some of this will happen. And I thought I should leave you with that thought. When we actually had the broadcasters here for our super pitches 2 or 3 years ago, the total market that they had at that time was $15, $20, $30 million. But, and please don't take my number literally, it could be plus or minus something, it's just from a data source I saw last night. When I look at broadcasters like Nick, that have gone from about $1.5 to $2 million of revenue to all the way up to $14 million in a 2-year period, it shows you that there is a huge appetite for content. It shows you that as they begin to work with local content, they are being able to add to their fantastic library from abroad, but also buy really good products from the local market to take this into the next level. And for people like Cartoon Network and Pogo and others who've been here for a long time, they also are not only making their money from advertising, but if I was to take the last figure that I saw for Cartoon Network, on the $40 million top line, they had about almost $17 to $18 million that came from subscription, which means they are getting loyal people that come back to the channel, that come back to the brand, in the example of television. And I think this is where we're headed, and have to look for ways to both satisfy consumers as well as to build loyalty for brands in what we do. In the last 2 or 3 years, I just want to touch upon where this has actually led and what I think is breaking around us as we speak. So in the old days, it was very much a producer or a production company from somewhere in the world that said, I'm making the show. We used to meet them at a conference or a trade show, and they said, I'm sending you this scope of work. So they would actually have an SLA out, and then we would actually bid for that, and we'd get that work in here, and actually make physical deliveries of that, get it checked, retakes, and then it used to go back. And what has happened since then is, I think, just to zoom into today's story, is many companies, including 3 or 4 world leaders, no longer operate in India on the basis of them being the guy who pushes out the orders and gets some work back. It's moved very much to a partnership model. And what I'm seeing now is that the trust and the confidence that companies work with Indian companies, that are engaging with Indian companies show, is they share their proprietary software with us. They share their pipelines. They share their production assets. We are free to visit each other all the time. We make sure that the work we do for them is ring-fenced so that it is confidential and they feel comfortable, almost as if it were their studio. We share training resources, and therefore I think that's a very, very significant move that we're seeing, that we've been able to establish ourselves at the level of the super tier, the tier 1, even tier 2 companies that have really good relationships with people for years and now are really moving to a partnership model. Which brings me to my last thought for today. And the last thought for today is, I believe that we've been talking of production. I believe that we've spoken at length of co-production. I believe we've spoken at length of IP development for the last 10 years. But I think where we're headed now is a very, very unique place that we are going to. And I'm going to be calling that the co-creation model. For a long, long time, we were told that because of color palette, because of aesthetics, because of sensibility, because of experience, that only the middle portion or the end portion of creative content could actually come to India. I'm very happy to tell you that you will see more than 5 examples today in this room across different companies, across different speakers, that will demonstrate to you that this is no longer an idea. That companies in other parts of the world are working with companies in India to co-create everything from idea to execution. And I think that's going to be the most exciting feature of the day today. So, in spite of the fact that we started by saying that a lot of things didn't start for this conference in the morning, and Raji was giving a long list of that. I cannot tell you that I've forgotten all of that. I'm really excited to be here. I cannot tell you what a fantastic conference this is going to be. I know all the people who are going to speak, but I'm not going to leave the room for a minute because I think I will learn a lot by just being here myself. And I think new insights, new interactions, opening our doors, looking outside in is the reason that we come here year after year. To give you a very brief idea of who we have here, we have a number of luminaries and we'll introduce them as they come up. But very briefly, the way the conference is structured is we're going to have a thundering keynote right after Rajesh finishes introducing the gaming side of the business. And then we're going to be taking a short break. And then the conference moves into 2 tracks. I believe this is the animation room. So the animation track will be the animation is on the other side, and the gaming track will be run in this room. So at the tea break, you'll see the notices outside. And by the time we meet here the next time, I think something significant would have changed. What has changed already is that we have a very robust game developer conference, which Rajesh will talk to you about, that is already happening. And on the animation side, we used to bundle a number of things under the animation umbrella. I think what's changing is we're seeing a tremendous demand on us from the visual effects community saying, although we have some synergies with everyone else, just like the gaming guys did a couple of years ago, we really want to see this as 3 co-located conferences. The Game Developer Conference, the Visual Effects Conference, and the Animation Conference. So if I can predict what might happen next, then that's the kind of prediction that I would make. And with these words, I just wanted to extend to each and every one of you a really warm welcome. Have a great time, interact a lot, and there's a rock band, which I think is a highlight. The party is always important. I've always said that I judge every conference by the quality of the after party. So tomorrow morning when I see some of you struggling back into the conference room, we'll know that NAC4 2010 was really successful. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to invite our co-chair from the gaming side, Rajesh Rao. I had to take off my jacket because he never wears one.
Good morning, everybody. So being in the gaming industry, I lost my suit and my jacket a long time back. And we have another CEO from India Games who was asking me today morning, should I wear my shorts or should I, So that's the flavor of the games industry for you internationally and in India. It's my pleasure to share with you what we have in store for you guys on the gaming side of things. We've got 2 conferences really running over the next 2 days. We have the Animation and Gaming Conclave, which is more of a business track, a business conference, which is a one-day event. And we have a couple of panel discussions in that for the gaming side. One is, it's a panel which we do every year. It's like a SWOT analysis or a state of the industry kind of a panel where we have people from the various different, sides of the industry, mobile, console, online, sharing what they think has transpired the year before, what's the traction points they're seeing for the future, what are the areas of concern or reasons for optimism for the future. So that's a panel that we always have every year, and we have that this year as well. And we have a very interesting panel this year on the future of social gaming and what it holds for India. We have a lot of reason to believe, because of what we've seen as a phenomena, the Orkut first and Facebook later, pretty much sweeping through the internet users in India. People waking up at 2 in the morning because they want to, farm on Farmville. And I think a lot of us in the gaming industry were taken pleasantly by surprise with the momentum that social has gained in India. And with the coming of 3G and broadband going wireless, we feel that there's a huge reason to be optimistic about the mass market penetration of games because of social. Social comes with a lot of free gaming, which Indians love, as we all know, and microtransactions, which we have traditionally known to be a model that Indians like. Indians like paying small ticket sizes. They don't like paying large amounts, and I think social is a really good fit. So we have a panel talking about the opportunities there. So that's as far as the business side is concerned. What I'm really excited about is what we've managed to do on the game development front. Last year, when we were doing the conference, we kind of talked about it and said, let's stick our neck out and see if we can pull off a developer event. The reason is we've never had a platform for developers, the game developers in India, to talk about what they've done, to share, and that whole fraternity was completely missing. In fact, several studios, by the time it was 2009 last year, were already functioning, many of them having over 100, 200 people, but they were not even meeting each other. They were all like these silos, and the guys from Dhruva are like these strange creatures to the guys in India Games, and the guys from Lakshya are like these guys up in the north, and we've never seen them. And we said, we've got to do something about it, because the employable workforce in India for games has not really grown up playing games, which already puts us at a significant disadvantage, or if you want to call it that, or puts us in a situation of being challenged. And a lot of us have actually grown learning the hard way. We've had only the game developer conference in San Francisco, which we go to, or a few events here and there. And most of us could afford to send very, very few people to those. They would come back with a lot of gyan and knowledge and saying, wow, we should have something here, but we never did anything about it. So last year we said, let's do it, and it turned, and we said, it's got to be an event which is by the developers, for the developers. So we put together a panel of studio heads, and we said, we'll keep the suits out of it. And we said, let the studio heads and the senior guys from each studio become a content committee, and let's have a call for papers and have people talking about what they've done in their respective studios. And we didn't really know how it would go, but we were very, very happy to see that the event turned out to be a great success. And that really encouraged us a lot to say, yes, there was a void. I think we found that there is a need, and we've established that. And then this year, when we called for papers for this year's conference, we realized that there were so many that we had to move out of being just a one-day conference to being a 1.5-day conference. And I can see next year it will probably be a full 2-day conference. But there is traction, there's momentum there. I think it kind of is reflective of a very fundamental thing about development, the development community worldwide. People like to share their stories. They want to talk about what they did, what they learned, what they did right, what they did wrong, and it's so important for those stories to be shared. In India, my company is 14, we're in our 14th year in business, and really when I look at what we've achieved, where we are today, to be honest, I think all of what we've done could have been achieved in 5 years if we were in another place, or maybe even less. And I think, and many of us, Manvendra has run gaming initiatives for a long time, Vishal Gondal, and there's so many of us who've been doing this for so many years. And we have all realized that we've spent inordinate amount of time and money in grooming our talent, mostly inefficiently. We're now, over the last few years, maybe we've gotten it better than before. And we said we're determined to make sure that for the people who want to set up companies in the future, people who are setting up companies now, we must make it easier for them. And we need this